When you don't teach money in school, what happens? What happens? Well, maybe this explains why millennials absolutely suck at managing their money. Let's get into this next story, which is a Business Insider story. And this shocked me because a couple weeks ago, we did a story on how 40% of Americans making over $100,000 live paycheck to paycheck. 40% of Americans making $100,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck. That's individuals, not household incomes. That's individuals. We also discussed that only 15% of Americans make $100,000 or more. So if there's 10 of you in a room, 8.5 of you are not making $100,000 or more. So 1 and 1.5 of you are making $100,000. So it's not like it's that common to make $100,000 is my point.
Right.
But for the millennials that are making $100,000, 60% of millennials earning $100,000 or more a year say they're living paycheck to paycheck. So this epidemic of personal finance and not understanding what to do with your money, it's not immune to America. It's everywhere. But millennials, they take the cake. They're taking the cake and eating it too. 60% of these millennials live in paycheck to paycheck. So here's a story here on Business Insider basically saying these high-earning millennials feel broke. Now, could it be some of their lifestyle choices, Marcelo? I'd say yes.
I guarantee it's because of their lifestyle choices.
Okay, exactly. They're making $100,000. A lot of them are not married. Okay, they got no kids. Your millennials are basically the oldest. I call myself the oldest millennial. Okay,
Right.
40 years old now, right? That's the oldest millennial. The youngest millennial's probably 25 years old. So the average millennial is late 20s, early 30s average. People are waiting to get married. So a lot of these millennials making $100,000 a year, they don't have expenses like normal people do, like the baby boomers do, or the Gen X's do, or the married. A lot of people are married.
I also argue that it was harder to spend money back then. It is so easy to spend money today. Mm-hmm. You can tap your phone 2 times, $500 are gone.
Gone.
You
Little
go
tap, tap-a-roo.
it's over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Uber Eats. These kids are not even leaving their house to get food. Let me ask you something. Mm-hmm. If a baby boomer in his day and age had the power to press a button and have a guy get him food, you think they'd have the same financial stability they have today?
It's easier. It's certainly easier than ever right now. But let's get into this story, and then we can do some of our favorite banter. Anyway, this is such a problem with millennials, these $100,000 making millennials, that they've actually come up for a nickname for these people. It's such a pervasive problem that they said, we got to give a nickname to these people. You know what they've called these people? They call them Henrys. Henrys. And why do they call them Henrys? Henry stands for high earner, not rich yet. High earner, not rich yet. Henry, because you're broke. Henry. So Henrys typically fall victim to something that we covered last time in the podcast, which is called lifestyle creep. Creeping on the come up, which is basically when your wants become your needs, right? You might be driving a 2014 Honda Accord. It's going fine, but I want that new BMW. You might have a decent watch. I want that new Rolex. I need that new Rolex, right? I want to go out for a nice dinner, but I need to go to Prime 112 in Miami, the most expensive restaurant. I need it. I'm making 100 G's, but what happens, Marcelo? They start living paycheck to paycheck. If you were making $100,000 a year, would you, Marcelo, be living paycheck to paycheck?
I don't know, dude. I have a friend of mine who is just really into money, and he's always preaching this save that money shit. I mean, nonstop. He doesn't leave me alone about it. Yes. So I might not. I might have a little plan in place.
I have a feeling that the people watching this show are on my camp. Yeah. Some of them, let me know below if you're willing to make a comment how much you make a year. And if you feel like being, lying to us, add 10% on top of it. All good. But don't double it. I'd like to know what we're working with a year. That'd be great to know. Okay? It's basically not that everyone says $100,000, they'll all be lying because only, 1.5 people out of 10 make $100,000 a year. So I'd like to know what's going on there. So who's a Henry out there? Be very honest in the comments. So basically, the problem is you're making 6 figures, and what we talked about, you should be good. You should be, as I call, chilling. The problem is the kids did the hard part. They earned the money, and they should be making enough to not only survive, but to thrive. The problem is making money is only half the battle. The other half of the battle is knowing what to do with the money, having offense and defense. We talked about this last time, where with money, it's not just the amount of money you make, which is your offense, is the amount of money that goes out the door, which is your defense, is your expenses, right? So every year in the NFL or in the NBA, there's going to be a team that leads the league in offense, and they might suck on defense. I use this analogy of the Phoenix Suns, Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, Sean Marion, the whole, Leandro Barbosa. They led the team in scored 125 points a game. Problem was they gave up 126. That's what's happening with these Henrys, these millennials making $100,000 a year, is they're making $100,000 and they're probably spending 110 because they're thinking that the good times won't stop. But you know something about the good times? They don't last forever.
Right. And I think it's also they're rushing it. You always talk about how you're going to be 30, you're going to be 40, you're going to be 50.
Yeah.
A lot of people maybe don't realize that, and they think I got to live for the now.
Oh, that YOLO mentality.
Yeah. That's what's hurting them a little bit too. Right. I mean, remember, we grew up on YOLO. Baby boomers, they got YOLO later in life. These millennials, they grew up on YOLO. Drake was a big deal for us.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
That's the motto.
YOLO's a way of life. How many millennials had YOLO in their bio at some moment in time in their life? A lot of them.
Marcelo, do me a favor. Read some of these incomes.
All right.
Starting with Michael Lopez, if you scroll up. Yeah, or Josh Lang is making 55. Read some of these things.
Yeah, we got 52, 50. Andres Hernandez, 500K, NGAIHAN, NG 90K, 70K, 95K, 45K. 82K from Jose Aguilera. David Duarte doing great. Sajadit Shinde, 139K. TRC Turtle Light 150K. Samuel Teddy, $40,000. Fabian Perez said he's 19 years old. That doesn't have really anything to do with this, but that's fair. I appreciate you, Fabian, just telling us your age. It's good that he's here, right? At that age, learning about money.
Learn it.
Good
Learn
to be here.
Now, Fabian.
70K, I got cheap rent, expensive car, and expensive food. Travel is a must. And at the end of the day, I still feel short on cash. I mean, that tells you everything you got to know, huh? He got the expensive car, expensive food, and travel is a must. Chris Martinez, maybe you should, take it back a notch, save a little money. Maybe this lifestyle creep seems to be happening to him, huh?
Creeping on the come up.
Fabian Perez, there he goes, 32K at 19 years old. And David says he's making 140K salary. So I'd say we'd average it out. I mean, we got a little bit of everything here.
Yeah, we do. And respect to the people out there making money, and respect to the people that are just telling us the truth. Thank you. You're only lying to yourself if you're making these comments. I don't, whether you're making 80 grand or 60 grand or 120 grand, I don't care. Congratulations. Obviously, there's only two ways to have more money. There's two ways, right? You can make more or you can spend less.
That's it.
Offense and defense. So there it is right there. And you know that they say is that only 20% of personal finance and money management is knowledge, right? Knowledge can only take you so far. The other 80%, behavioral. We all know that you should have a budget.
Right.
We all know that debt, especially high interest debt, is bad. We all know save that money. I've been saying it for 5 years straight, a million times a day. Okay? We all know that you should invest. Where should you invest? I don't know. The riskier stuff has a higher reward. The less risky stuff, lower reward. We all know that. We're all familiar with crypto. We all know the stock market. We all know real estate. We know these things are just, are you doing them? So that's the bottom line. So put it this way. If you're making 20, 30, 40 grand, I've been there. I've been that guy, okay? It's not easy. It's not easy. Get a roommate, okay? Limit your expenses and start to make more money, okay?
Amen.
If you're making 100 grand a year, if you're making 500 grand a year, I've also been there. Understand that you might not always make that income. Not everything works out forever. And make sure that you have a budget and that you're paying off your debt and you're saving your debt. You're doing everything we talk about.
And if you're making less than 100K a year, but you're not living paycheck to paycheck, you're doing something right.
You're doing something right. I always see this all the time. I'd rather make 50 grand a year and save 10%, $5,000, and start saving and investing and doing all that than making $100,000 a year and spending it all of it. And every year I wonder why I have no money. Anyway, my advice to you Henrys out there is get it together. Get it together, because it happened in 2008. It happened in 2020. You never know what's going to happen next. And that's the reason that you save for the long term, because you might be 20 now, but you're going to be 30, and you might be 30 now, and you might be 40. The good times don't last forever. And use that saving and use that compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world, to grow your money. Anyway, Marcelo, final thoughts before we move on here.
Lifestyle creep is real. A lot of people are noticing it, and nothing, man. Try not to live that YOLO lifestyle. Believe it or not, probably Drake himself doesn't live that YOLO lifestyle. He's probably saving a lot of money, doing a lot of investing.
That is very true. And Marcelo, you're 24 now?
24 years old, yeah.
24 years old. Yeah, the future looks bright for you, buddy.
Talk is money. All we talk is money.
If you enjoyed that short clip from the Soscast, click here to watch another. Click here to watch the full episode, or just stay broke.